What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Mekanism version 10, and today we're going to be going over the Formulaic Assemblicator, which is a machine that allows for automated crafting. Now, automated crafting's come up a couple times throughout the series, mainly because there's a couple key components that we use in crafting almost every single episode, which means prior to that episode, I'm lugging stuff around off camera, manually crafting or manually processing in a couple different machines, these same things over and over and over again. I'm making hundreds of them, and so honestly, it is a huge time sink, and if we automate the crafting for it, it saves us a ton of time, and it makes life so much easier. And this is actually the case with a lot of different mods. You'll find that there's a couple key components or blocks that those mods offer that you use in almost every crafting recipe, and so of course, because we are playing modded Minecraft, it makes sense to automate the production of those, make our lives easier, and just make it so that we can get to the fun portion of the game where we use all the fancy machines and stuff instead of crafting the basic components to make those machines. So thankfully, the Formulaic Assemblicator is the answer to all of those problems. It allows for automated crafting, it's really simple to work with, and there's a couple key features that other automated crafting setups do not offer that actually fix a bunch of pitfalls that you run into with those other setups, which is absolutely awesome because a lot of times that can lead to these huge convoluted setups just to do something really simple, and then people don't think it's worth it. Now today we're going to be going over setting up an automated crafting system for the energy tablet, which means that on top of setting up the Formulaic Assemblicator, we're also going to be going over how to do automated processing of infused alloy, which is also something that you constantly use in crafting, so it's not bad to have some of this also laying around ready to go whenever you decide to craft something. To give you guys an idea though why we're doing the energy tablet, if you saw the induction matrix episode, you would know that the induction matrix cells have 4 different tiers. And the highest tier, which of course you eventually will want to get to when you're playing with Mekanism, is going to require over 4 stacks of energy tablets. And that's just for one of the blocks, and you can have a lot of them in here. Now obviously the energy tablets are used for a ton of different crafts, but that is the big one that this is going to help with, so I'm not having to craft that many of them and then lug them around. They're going to go directly into our storage system, and then maybe later down the line we automate the crafting of the different induction cell stuff. So we'll jump into the crafting now because I'm rambling on about how awesome this is, but for those of you that want to jump ahead to the next portion of the video, you can feel free to do so. No hard feelings as always, and there's a timestamp in the description to go to where all the fun begins. So in this chest, we got everything we need, and unfortunately you can see that some things are expensive, but thankfully those are the different QIO exporter, QIO importer, and QIO redstone adapter, which we're going to use to automate the transporting of items to the actual automated crafting, but you do not necessarily need those. It makes the automation a lot smoother and a lot easier, but you do not need them to use the Formulaic Assemblicator, and thankfully all the cheap stuff up here at the top is actually what you need for the Formulaic Assemblicator, which is super easy to make. So early on in the game you can definitely set this up. It just requires some steel, some basic control circuits, a crafting table, and a chest. And then of course we have the enrichment chamber to go along with our metallurgic infuser. We've used both of those numerous times now, but we're going to do those for the automated processing. And then the only other thing we have, and this is going to go along with the Formulaic Assemblicator, is the crafting formula. Now this is not required to actually use the Formulaic Assemblicator, but it is required to automate it. So just something to keep in mind when you're actually setting this up is you do need this. It's very cheap, but again, it's not required to actually use the machine itself. It's required to use the automation portion of it. So we're going to grab out everything in here really quick, and we're going to be crafting one of each machine, and then I believe we are going to have 3 exporters, 2 importers, and 2 redstone adapters. So there we go. And obviously, I do think that this is a little bit expensive to set up in the exact way I'm doing right now, but I definitely think it is well worth it to do because it's going to save us so much time. So we got the Formulaic Assemblicator here, again, super cheap. We have the enrichment chamber, which we've already made many times, metallurgic infuser, which we've also made a lot of times. Then we're going to do the crafting formula, which is just a piece of paper and a basic control circuit. So there we go. And then we have the QIO importer, which requires some polonium pellets, teleportation core, ultimate control circuit, and some lead. So very expensive, if you ask me. And we're going to be making 2 of these. We've got the QIO exporter, which again is the same recipe except a piston instead of a sticky piston. So we're making 3 of those. and then the redstone adapter, which we actually have not worked with yet and is the most expensive of them all, having 4 polonium pellets required, but we're going to be making 2 of those. So now we got everything we need. We can sleep, and then we're going to run downstairs and set it up down there because it doesn't look too fancy, so not super concerned with having it, right up here for everyone to see. But we're going to set it up over here where we've got plenty of room to do other automated crafting, and we're actually going to quickly grab out a quantum entangler because we are going to have to supply power to these machines too. And while we can wirelessly bring the items in, we're not able to do that with power without the quantum entangler. So we can start setting it up right over here, and we're going to start with the Formulaic Assemblicator just because that's why a lot of you guys are here. So if we put this down, we don't need any blocks to be adjacent to it. For now, we're just going to use the QIO stuff, of course, for bringing items in. But when we click on it, this is what we have right here. So you have a crafting grid. You're going to have your slot for the crafting formula right up here. And then we've got a bunch of buttons here, which you can't actually click. They're grayed out right now. So what we have to do first is actually set up our recipe. And I just realized that I forgot upstairs. I have all the stuff in the second chest for actually setting up the recipe. So we'll grab this real quick. I have the energy tablet for setting up the filters for this, and I have all the components we need. So here we go. So you actually do need the components themselves to set this up. A lot of times with certain crafting systems, you can just go into the actual recipe and shift click. But for this, you do need to have items that you can move in here. You can't just have like the ghost version of the items that's holding its place. Now, you do need to do this the first time. And once you have it set up like this, you're going to see that you have a green check mark over here. If you don't have a recipe over here, it's going to be a red X and you can't do anything. But the minute you have an actual recipe here, a couple of these buttons immediately light up. And the important one right now is this button right below the crafting formula, which is encode formula. Now, when you click this, it's going to write this recipe to the crafting formula, allowing you to do automated crafting. You can take this out and put it in somewhere else. It's going to hold the recipe for you. And so we're going to click encode formula, and immediately the rest of the buttons light up. Now, both of the buttons that just lit up, both this one and this one, are necessary for automation. So like I said earlier, you need the crafting formula and you need to encode the recipe to actually be able to do automation. And now if we take this out, you can see that both of those go away. But you're still able to use the rest because right now, technically, we have a full recipe in here. So these are actually items, they're actually usable. And eventually, if you wanted to, these would be used in crafting. Now, something to note right out the gate is the first important setting. And this one is honestly the coolest feature of it all. It's this one called stock control. Now, what stock control does is it makes sure that in the internal storage of the Formulaic Assemblicator, that each one of these slots on each row is assigned to each one of the crafting requirements. So one of these will be redstone, 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 then 3 for gold, and 2 for infused alloy. And what that does is it makes sure that you will never run into a system where it's completely full of redstone and you're not able to actually do the crafting. It just completely halts the system until you have manual intervention. And that is the big issue that a lot of automated crafting setups tend to run into. You're going to have a limiting crafting material, and eventually the system is going to get overloaded with one of the components for the crafting, and then it's going to stop. And to avoid that, you have these convoluted setups that people make to keep the automated crafting going. And this one, you just click a simple button, we turn stock control on. There's really no downside to this because it's going to make sure that the top row has enough for this full recipe and stacks, and the bottom row does too. So that's great. And then the next one is fill an empty grid. Now this one you would use if you're doing manually crafting, but right now you can see we're clicking on it, nothing happens. There's no, grid to fill even right now. It's got the items in there. We're not manually crafting. So if you had, a requirement for an item in there, and I guess that one just got rid of our item. There we go. You can see that if we pull the item in here, we can click and we can refill the grid because it has the required recipe, but it's not really going to do anything for you when you have automated crafting because it's going to automatically do that. Now over here, you have options for the actual crafting itself. So you have craft a single item, craft available items using all the items in the storage up to the limiting crafting component. And then you have the important one for automation, which is just called auto mode. And what that means is that whenever there's enough in here to craft one, it's crafting it. And it's going to pop out right over here in one of these 6 different output slots. And you're done then. Once you give it power, assuming you have items in here and you have auto mode on, you're going to get the item out. And when you turn auto mode on, all 3 of these go gray because those are all, like I said, used for manually crafting. So right now, if you want to do automated crafting, all you got to do is encode your formula and then click stock control on and click auto mode on. And you are pretty much good to go once you put the items in there. So now it comes down to actually getting the items in there. And we're going to go over how to use the QIO exporter and QIO importer for this. So right here, we're going to go on the left side and put down the QIO exporter, and we're going to make sure that the side config has input on the left, and we can clear the rest of these off. And so we're good to go input on the left. And over here, we're going to set this to our current storage system frequency. So it's good to go. We can see it's lit up now, and we're going to go and do item stack. And to do that, we're actually going to grab out now one of each of these because we're going to have to set a filter on this. And we are going to put in infused alloy coming in here. We're going to put gold coming in here, and we are going to put redstone coming in here. And we're going to put this on, we're going to make sure it's staying export without filters off because we want to make sure that it's only pulling these 3 things in here. And you can see now that it's filled up. Now the only thing in here currently, or the only thing missing, is the infused alloy because we don't have any of those in our storage system. So it completely filled it up proper. And you can see once I drop that in there, it refills the missing slot up here. But you can see that there are 2 slots left on each row for the infused alloy. So if we were using a different storage system, we could have just run into the issue, or the different automated crafting system, I should say. We could run into the issue I just talked about, which is we have no infused alloy in our storage system. So the minute it went to pull them out, it pulled out all the stuff we did have, and it would have filled up these empty slots right here with more redstone or gold. And then this wouldn't be able to work even if we put infused alloy in our storage system. So super awesome feature. And now this is pretty much good to go. Once we have the infused alloy, all we got to do is put down the QIO importer, set it to the storage system frequency, and then go back. And because we're only going to have one output here, we don't need to put an item stack down. We can just put it as import without filter on. And now once this is crafted, it's going to pull out the energy tablets and put them directly into our portable or to our QIO system, which we can access with our portable QIO dashboard. And if we drop these in here, they will eventually get pulled out and put back in here. If we grab out, you can see gold, redstone, it's just going to refill it, which is great because right now we have plenty of gold and plenty of redstone. Now, the one thing that we can do on top of this, and of course we still don't have any automated stuff coming through yet, but we're going to eventually when we make the infused alloy automation, what we can do is put down a QIO redstone adapter. And what this does is it reads whatever QIO system it is set to, and it's going to tell you how many items are in there and emit a redstone signal depending on if it is above or below the set quantity that you put in for that item. So there's 2 different ways to do this, and I'm going to tell you what both ways do, and then you can determine how you want to do it. But it's going to be if you put the redstone adapter on the machine or on the import, or the exporter, I should say. And each of these, you can see, have redstone functionality on them. This is what's going to allow us to do it. But the difference is that when you put the QIO redstone adapter on the machine is going to keep its internal storage. So while it won't craft anymore when you hit that certain limit that you set, it is still going to have all this redstone and gold sitting in it, and you're not going to be able to access that from your storage system. And so it's essentially useless. It's basically just sitting there as a buffer that's not currently being used, but it's also not accessible unless you come and manually grab it. And even if you manually pull it out, your storage system's then going to send another stack in here. Now, if you were to disable the exporter, what'll happen is your system will craft through all the items that you have in here. You're going to get a little bit more than you actually have set on your redstone adapter, but it will make sure that you're not having this internal buffer completely full all the time when you don't want the system to be running. So you can do it either way when you want the system to stop, because of course you do want a stopping mechanism on it. Otherwise, all your gold, redstone, and infused alloy is going to be turned into energy tablets, and you're going to have absolutely none to work with. And that's not what you want, because you still need gold and redstone for other things. So you do want to cap out your automated crafting at some point to make sure that you're not converting literally every one of these resources into whatever your craft is. So we can slap down the QIO redstone adapter on the machine right here. I'm putting it on the machine. I'm not hugely concerned with having some redstone and gold stored in here. It looks a lot nicer, and it makes it a lot simpler when you end up running into machines, which we're going to do next, which have multiple different exporters on them, meaning you would need multiple different adapters to actually turn them on and off. So what we do for this is set the frequency to our storage system, and then we're going to go and put in the energy tablet, and you can see that it has a stored count of 0 right now in our system, and we're going to be setting the trigger count. So I'm going to put it at 20 for now. We can adjust this whenever we want. We click the plus symbol, and the trigger count is now 20. So this will turn on when it reaches 20 in our storage system, and if we go over here and drop 1 in, we should be able to see that it currently now has 1. So what we'll do is, I believe this should be set to inverted to make sure that it's going to turn off when we give it a redstone signal. So once this hits 20 in our system, this will stop crafting and we will no longer be using up resources to make these. But the minute we take one out, this will start up again and it'll craft more for us. So it's great. You basically want to set the quantity at however much you think you need on a regular basis so you can grab those out and then it'll recraft them and not overcraft. So now we need to make the actual infused alloy and then supply power to both of these. So we're going to be using the metallurgic infuser and enrichment chamber combo to make sure we get the most bang for our buck in terms of the redstone we're putting into this. So if you don't do that, you're really missing out. It gives you 8 times the amount of redstone in your metallurgic infuser just by processing it in the enrichment chamber first. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put the input on the left, turn on auto eject, output on the right, and then over here, we're going to turn the input on the left. We're going to put the output on the right. And then we're also going to need to make sure we should actually have the input on the top, and we're going to need the, where is it? We need the side component coming in from the left. So we're going to put it on the, I believe it's the extra on the side. And so basically, we're going to need the redstone to come in one side, the iron to come in another, and then the items to come out. So we are going to have the 2 QIO exporters, one on this side for the redstone, one on here for the iron on top, and then the importer over here on the right side. And so this is the exact thing I was talking about over here, where it's really simple when you have a bunch of items being pulled in through one exporter to think, oh, okay, I'll just shut this off. It's a lot more annoying when you have multiple exporters that are going to be causing that backup. And so, you know, you're going to need multiple redstone adapters then to turn off the iron, to turn off the redstone, when you could just turn off the machine with a single one. Now we should throw down the power right now, and we're just going to bring this right under here. And I'll make it look nicer off camera so we don't see a bunch of wires, but for the time being, we can just throw this down right here and go like this. Set this up to our power, and I think we want all these to be outputs like that. There we go. Okay, so our system should have power now, and we check over here. Yep, this has power. You can see that it should have actually already crafted one, so we now have 2 in our system, but now it used up the 2 infused alloy that were in here to start, and now it needs more. So over here, what we can do now is set this to redstone. So we'll grab out a piece of redstone from our system, come over here, set the frequency again, go back, set the item stack to redstone, and there we go. So now we have a full stack of redstone brought in here. It's processing it, and it's going to start dumping them over into here. And now we need to come and set iron for this one because we need iron coming in the top. So we'll go and set this again to the storage system frequency, item stack of iron, save that. And now we have iron coming in here. And so we have this outputting to the right. You can see that we're going to get in 80 every time this processes 1 redstone, which is great. And now we're getting infused alloy. So now that we're ready to output it, all we have to do is set this to our storage system frequency, and we're going to set this to import without filter, so it pulls these out of here without any issue. And over here, what should start happening is, I believe we should start getting some of these coming in. So if we look, where is it? You can see that we are getting multiple energy tablets being crafted for us. So now we are at 3. And this one's going to keep going, pulling those into our system. So now what we need to do is just turn on the redstone adapter for this so that we can shut it off when we have fully crafted our energy tablets and keep processing this. We of course don't want an infinite amount of this, because then we're going to burn through all our redstone and all of our iron, making infused alloy. So what we can do here is I actually need to grab out one of the infused alloys. So I may turn this off for a second so we can get one of these out without it going directly into our system, so that we can set the item stack. So there we go. We'll turn this back on, and over here we can put infused alloy, and I'm going to set it at a stack. So we're going to put it at 64, and we need to make sure it's set to the right frequency. So there we go. There's currently 0 in the system because they're all being consumed over here. And this one, once we have reached the 20 count for the energy tablets, this will stop working, and then we'll start getting a backlog of infused alloy. And when we reach a count of 64 infused alloy, this will stop running. Now again, you're going to run into a stack of iron sitting in here, and you're going to run into a stack of enriched redstone over here, and a stack of redstone sitting in here, and everything is going to be completely full. But I'm okay with that. It's not like I'm really concerned about wasting a couple pieces of gold or iron. Honestly, I'd rather that than have to use another 4 polonium to make more redstone adapters to do that, because to me, the polonium is way more valuable right now. But I did want to let you guys know that you do have those options. So if we look at our system now, you can see that we have 8 energy tablets, and that's just going to keep going up. If we wanted to speed up the process, we could put speed upgrades into, I guess we can do it right now because I actually have some of them sitting in here. We should make more muffler upgrades too, because these systems are so loud. But if we want to put speed upgrades in here to make them a lot faster, those are basically what are limiting the Formulaic Assemblicator from running right now. So we should be able to see this going a lot faster the minute all those get applied to these. So, yep, now it's really kicking into gear. So we can watch this. We should be able to actually see it crafting each one. So there's almost, yeah, so it's going to be consistently crafting now. And we're going to end up with 20 of these pretty quickly. So we'll get to see it actually shut off when it gets to 20. Make sure our redstone setting is proper. So there we go, 18, 19, and 20. So you can see it turns on because our redstone is set to inverted. A signal here means the system turns off. And now what's going to happen is all of these infused alloy are going to go and sit, well, I guess actually once they build up in here at least, they're going to then go and sit in our internal storage system. And so then once we hit a full stack there, this one will turn on just like this one did, and it will stop crafting these. And then whenever we need those, we'll be able to pull them out using our dashboard and have access to them, so we don't actually need to go process them manually. And then however much we pull out, I'll show you guys right here. Basically, if we have 20 energy tablets and I grab one of them out, immediately it'll refill to 20. Now I can throw this back in there, no issue. And if we pull another one out, it's not going to go again. But if I pull them out like this, it's going to keep refreshing it to 20, which is honestly great, so that whenever you're doing crafting, you can just grab them out and it'll refill, and you never need to worry that you're ever going to run out of them, because in our system, we've got plenty of redstone coming in, we've got plenty of iron coming in, plenty of gold, we've got it going through right now the 4 times ore processing with the digital miner constantly running. So pretty much this is a fully automated crafting setup now, which will simplify my life so much off camera when it comes to prepping for videos with some of these extremely commonly used crafting components. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know we were really only going to go over the Formulaic Assemblicator, but you guys get a little bit of a bonus going over the automation for this setup over here too, with just some automated infused alloy processing. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will talk to you later.
Faces swirling past me, all my memories rolling vastly.